Good afternoon and welcome to the Civil Service Commission of July 11, 2018. May we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Manukian?
Here.
Commissioner McCarley?
Present.
Commissioner Devine?
Here.
Chair Abkarian?
Here.
For the record, Commissioner Gazarian is absent.
What's next?
Minutes for the meeting of June 13, 2018.
Move to approve, dispense from reading. Second.
All right, move to approve the reading. Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Manukian?
Yes.
Commissioner McCarley?
Yes.
Commissioner Devine?
Yes.
Chair Abkarian?
Yes. What's next?
Oral communications.
Oral communications. What's next?
Recruitment and examination report.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this is the Recruitment and Examination Status Report, which represents the current recruitments in progress and the various stages of examinations. Recruitment activity continues to be heavy. Staff is currently working on approximately 74 processes at this time. If the Commission has any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them. Otherwise, this is a note and file item.
Any questions? What's next?
Eligible list established.
List established. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, these are the eligible lists that were established since our last meeting. As you can see, staff has been quite busy administering various examinations, yielding 14 lists. 10 were promotional, 1 was open, and 3 were promotional and open. Again, this is a note and file item, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer them.
Any questions? Now what's next?
Class specification for approval, traffic engineer series.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this is a class specification for approval for the Traffic Engineer Series. The Traffic Engineer Series was last updated in 1998, so it has been quite some time, and the proposed changes seek to bring the specification up to date. Additionally, during the recent budget process, the City Council approved the establishment of 2 new classifications to add to this series, and those were for the Senior Traffic Engineer and Principal Traffic Engineer. Traditionally, those positions were held by civil classifications within the Civil Engineer Series, and the establishment of the Traffic Engineer, the Senior and Principal Traffic Engineer classifications more appropriately reflect the duties of those positions. If approved by Commission, the Public Works Department plans to transfer staff from the Civil Engineering Series to the more appropriately classified Traffic Engineer Series via the similar qualifications transfer process. The GCA and GMA have been given an opportunity to review the proposed changes and have not expressed any concerns. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer them. Additionally, from our staff, we have Sean Chavez, HR Analyst, as well as Mr. Edward Hitty, Assistant Director of Public Works.
Okay. Any questions?
I have one question. Under the minimum requirements, on page 11, says note, this is after they give the experience, education, and license and certificates, and it says an equivalent combination of experience, education, and or training may be substituted for the listed minimum requirements. And it has, there is no equivalent for registration as a professional engineer within the state, and that's crossed off. So I'm wondering why it could be an engineer that's not registered by the state filling that position.
I will defer to either Sean or Mr. Hitty to answer that question.
Any good?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, the commissioners.
Your full name, please.
My name is Edward Hitty. I'm Assistant Director of Public Works.
Thank you.
Thank you. For that position, if it's under a registered TE, will be able to perform that work. There's always on the conservative side to ask sometimes without requirement for a license. But when you get to the senior level or to principal level, those licenses are required. So this is the discussion about the traffic engineer level 2, that it can practice the TE if it's unsupervised under a licensed TE.
Okay, but as you go on up the line, then you would require the engineering license. Where does that requirement kick in? At what level?
To be senior or to be a principal, you need to have those licenses, the TE's license.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you very much.
Okay, let me just understand, just to clarify it. So the position will not be called an engineer, because I'm assuming that if you're called an engineer, you need to be a certified engineer, correct?
Correct. The traffic engineers is a little bit specialties in the civil engineer or the engineering in general. To be able, the civil engineer can practice TE. The TE, traffic engineer, cannot practice civil engineering. However, even civil engineer to practice TE, it's up to the individual whether he's comfortable to be able to make those type of decisions, whether from design or doing calls for how the signal need to be designed, or whether warranty stop signs, so forth. But for this level, in order to be consistent with the other classification we have for the PE civil engineering, those particular positions, the senior and the principal, require the TE, which is state license also, just to practice traffic, not civil.
Any other questions?
Move to approve?
Just
one
Sure, go ahead.
Just again for clarification, and perhaps I did not hear accurately, you are indicating that for the more senior positions, beginning with Traffic Engineer 2, that licensing as a professional engineer is a requirement?
For the senior, yes.
Okay, so
for the
within the
TE
class category, the hierarchy is Traffic Engineer 1, Traffic Engineer 2, mid-level supervising traffic engineer?
They
Senior
can be
traffic engineer.
supervised, yes, they can be supervised by senior or by principal
Because-
licensed without the TE1, TE2B
Okay,
license.
so there is no provision within this series that obligates any of the aspirants for the position to have a professional certification from the state. What you've done, probably, maybe it's a good thing, is that by striking the requirement for a professional engineering certification from the state board, you've allowed for an assessment of experience, background, and other factors as part and parcel of the determination to hire. Would that be right?
Correct.
So no more professional engineer? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Yeah, just for future purposes, if you can actually have a chart that actually delineates what each position is, and then put in red where this new position is gonna go. We've had it in the past, but somehow it was missed on this one. But if we can actually include a chart in the future purposes, that would be nice. I think there's a statement that needs to be made. Go ahead, please.
Sure, Perry, I just want to, if we could ask for just a brief recess, because I want to just clarify something with
Sure.
our assistant director.
Take a 5-minute recess.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Because I think if I understand your question, Greg, and it's a legitimate point, how can you call it a traffic engineer series when the person is not an engineer, right?
That's what I thought. I thought you couldn't be called an engineer unless if you are a licensed engineer in California. But then I'm not an engineer, nor do I claim to be an expert in the area.
got
So
Mr. Devine.
if the experts are telling us that you can call yourself an engineer without being an engineer, then you can. I didn't know that.
Yeah, because
thought-
that was a good point.
Yeah, I had no idea. So we'll just move on. Let's go ahead and skip this and move to the next item, which is item number 6. Ms. Martin? Oh, I'm sorry.
Class specification for approval, transit series.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this is the class specification for approval for the Transit Series. The positions within this series have been previously approved by City Council. The classifications will be involved in the planning and design of transit programs and in analyzing data regarding the productivity and effectiveness of those services. The series consists of one GCA classification and one mid-management classification. As such, both the GCA and GMA have been given an opportunity to review the proposed class specification and have not expressed any concerns. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them. Additionally, Mr. Chavez from our staff is available to answer questions, as well as Ms. Catherine Engel, Transit Manager.
Any questions? Question, motion?
Move to approve?
Second?
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Manukian?
Yes.
Commissioner McCarley?
Abstain.
Commissioner Devine?
Yes.
Chair Perian.
Yes. What's next?
Reports?
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this is the past due evaluation report. As of the date of the agenda was issued, 11 departments had no past dues, 4 departments had first notice, 1 department had a second and a fourth notice. After the agenda was submitted, the City Clerk's office with the second and fourth notices has served all evaluations noted on the past due report, and therefore, as of this moment, has no past dues.
So this is incorrect, what we have?
This is correct as of the date the agenda was issued. Since this was issued, we received the evaluations in question.
Okay.
This is a note in
Any
file.
questions? I just want to make sure that we follow what we had before. And we've already voted on this. I think I'm just refreshing the staff's memory. If the evaluation is not given or done by the time the report is out, the department has to show up at the meeting and explain why it wasn't done prior to the meeting. And this is a fourth notice going back to February 1st of 2018. So this time, I guess we will let it go, but just for future purposes, the agreement and the resolution that was passed, which I recall, was that if the evaluation is not done at the time when the report is going out, then the department head has to show up at the hearing. Just for future purposes, we can just let the staff know. Any other comments on this? Okay.
And Mr. Chair, just to clarify, our staff did notify Mr. Kasakian of the requirement to appear. However, since he provided the evaluations,
Okay. Yeah, from now on, just know that it's a requirement that for them to show up, even if they've submitted it already, they need to show up in here, so.
thank you.
Friend or no friend, so to speak. Civil service, what's next?
Class specification for approval, traffic engineer series.
We're going back to that. Did you sort out everything outside?
I believe we did. So we just want to clarify for the record on the class specification. So under the license certifications, we do have it noted there that registration as a civil engineer or traffic engineering with the California State Board for professional engineers, land surveyors, and geologists, that will apply to all classifications. So including the traffic engineering 1, 2, principal and senior levels, okay? And then the other thing that was brought up by Commissioner Devine, and that was correct, that was a good catch on your part, we do need to put back in the language that there is no equivalent for registration as a professional engineer with the state of California. So that will be what we are asking you guys to approve, what we're asking the commission to approve tonight is to include the note that there is no equivalent for registration as a professional engineer with the state of California, and that previous registration does apply to all the levels in that classification.
Just to understand, first of all, this was an excellent catch by Commissioner Devine, because I didn't really see it, but it's a great catch. Now, you want us to strike out an equivalent combination of experience, education, or training may substitute for the listed minimum requirements, and instead replace that with there is no equivalent for registration as a professional engineer with the state of California.
So actually, we want to include both.
You want to include both?
Well, say that again.
So under the notes section that we're referring to, we have there an equivalent combination of experience, education, and or training may substitute for the listed minimum requirements. That's the boilerplate language that we include in all our class specifications. Okay. So we'd like to include that, but specific to this particular classification, we want to note there also that there's no equivalent registration for a professional engineer.
So you're going to unstrike out the
Correct.
red.
That's right.
Okay, but with that said, if you turn to page 10, or licenses, certifications, of course, there's a driver's license required. Makes a lot of sense. The second one is registration as a civil engineer.
That's right, and so,
or a traffic engineer?
so we will have to update the language to reflect that change
No, I
because,
think it makes sense if what you're saying is, all right, this is what we want, but in lieu of licensing as a professional engineer or surveyor, in exchange for that, we will accept a combination of requisite experience and education, background, and training, and that will be for the purpose of determining the most eligible candidate. So if I were to participate and apply for this job, I do not have a professional engineer's license, but perhaps I have the other experience that might be attractive to the city. I guess that's what you're saying?
No.
what I'm
the
saying is they do
opposite.
need to have the certification, so that's the only thing we cannot substitute. We may be able to substitute their experience or their education or training, but they would be required to have that certification.
All right, because I was inconsistent with the previous speaker, because I
Yes,
asked
I know,
specifically.
and that's why I wanted to correct that for the record.
Okay, so for the record, a professional license from the state is required for each one of these positions, 1, 2, supervisor, and of course, senior.
That's correct.
Okay.
Move to approve with those changes?
Second?
Okay, move to approve with the additional changes. Second, roll call, please.
Commissioner Manukian?
Yes.
Commissioner McCarley?
Yes.
Commissioner Devine?
Yes.
Chair Abkarian?
Yes. What's next?
Civil Service Commission, staff comments.
Okay, it's a closed session. We will be going into a closed session, and we will not be, we will be reporting out after the closed session is completed. The room needs to be cleared for the closed session now, except for the people who are supposed to be here for the closed session item.
And for the record, this is public employee appointment, police officer recruit.
Thank you. Can we turn off the microphones, please? Yeah. The voice.
Yes. No, we're going to closed session.